If you're joining, then put in the chat where you're joining from. I love to see where you're from. If you're watching it now, you're probably watching the replay of this, and I'm glad you're here. As you join and as people join live, hopefully we'll have some join. Then I want to be addressing a couple of things, some of the challenges that young men particularly, but that all of us that have grown up without a dad face today. And that's how I grew up. I know there's challenges with that. And do me a favor, if you are joining the live, if you can put in here, I'm hoping the audio is good. I'll be checking it obviously when it's done. But until then, if I get someone on there, that would be great. Let's see, this is subscribers only. Maybe I wonder if I can change that. Anyway, you'll have to forgive my learning curve on these. All right, there are some particular challenges when we grow up without a dad, and that's who this channel is for. So I've made a lot of how-to videos. Again, things that maybe your dad would show you if he was there, but if your dad's not there, then where are you going to learn it from? I was fortunate to be able to pick him up from a guy in my neighborhood, actually a few guys, but one guy in particular. His name was Mark Gould, and he became my stepdad or my surrogate dad for me the whole time I was growing up, and even after I was married. What a great person he was, a great influence he was in my life. So for you, if you're growing up and you don't have your dad in your daily life, or you don't have a positive relationship with your dad, then I'm hoping this channel might be a little bit of filling in the gap for you as far as that goes. We're going to start today with dogs barking in the neighbor's yard. No, we're going to start today with, and it's so nice, I had to come outside to do this. So we're going to start with a dad joke. My wife printed off a whole bunch of dad jokes. What animal is the worst at hide and seek? A leopard, because he is always spotted. All right. It's a dad joke, so I guess you're not going to have to laugh at that too hard. But so what are some of the challenges of growing up without a dad? There's really two main categories of those. The first one I put down are the practical challenges. What do you do if you don't have someone to show you how to do things that your dad normally would show you? It might be maintenance around the car, with the house or the car, or projects around the home. It could be other things, questions about how to deal with situations that you'd be comfortable talking to your dad about that you might not be as comfortable talking to your mom about. Well, if you're in a situation like that, let me give you some suggestions, some practical suggestions. Okay, so for the maintenance things around the house, there are a lot of resources available today that I didn't have when I was growing up. But the one that I would recommend to you the most would be, look at your friends, or maybe your friends' dads. If you've got extended family, grandparents, grandfathers, or uncles that can maybe know about these things and can show you and help you and answer some of your questions. If you got a job, you might have a boss. If you play on a sports team, you might have a coach or your teammates. If you get to know them, and they might know something about something that you don't. Don't be embarrassed to ask them. It's okay not to know something. What's tougher is when you feel like you can't admit that you don't know it, because then you just dig your hole deeper. It makes life harder for you that way. You've got a lot of resources. I had a friend that I spent a lot of time with, and his dad, when I'd spend time at his house, they built a fort. He built with cement and rocks, they built a little waterfall and put a pump in the bottom and a pool at the bottom and piped it up to the top. And, I got to see how they did all that stuff. If I had questions, I could ask Joe, my friend's dad, about that. I had Mark Gould, who was a guy in the neighborhood, dad from down the street. And I would ask him questions about stuff like that. Or frankly, I would just spend time with him and I'd see how he would do things. So it was one time in particular, he came over and showed me how to change the brakes on my mom's car. So if you don't know how to do something and you need help with it, look at your friends' dads, your uncles, your aunts, grandparents, anyone that you might know, even though your dad's not there, that you could go to and ask for help. They're going to probably really be happy to help you if they can. Now, in addition to that, you've got one other resource to deal with practical challenges. That's where you're at right now on YouTube. You can see so many different things of people showing you how to do things that you can go figure it out that way too. Now, that helps solve the practical problems. And that's one of the challenges of growing up without a dad. But one of the biggest challenges of growing up without a dad are the emotional challenges. So let me share a story, and I'll put it in a nutshell. But sometimes you might be able to talk to others the way you couldn't talk to your mom. When I was in junior high school, I had a couple of guys start threatening me. They would threaten me under their breath, and they were going to get me after school. And I know it's hard to believe, but I was really scared. I was afraid of getting beat up, and that's what they kept telling me they were going to do after school. I didn't feel like I could talk to mom about it. In my teenage adolescent mind, if I talked to mom, what would she do? She'd talk to the principal would talk to the boys, and I would be branded as a mama's boy in school for the rest of my life. So in my mind, that was the only thing I could think of that would be worse than getting beat up. So I didn't, I just lived with it. Now, this story has a happy ending. I mean, it went on for months. And if I'd had a dad, I might have been able to talk to him about the situation. I might have been able to deal with it differently. But I didn't. At least in my mind, I didn't have anyone else I could talk to about this. Fast forward to go to high school the next year. I mean, they never did anything. They never made good on their threats. After high school, when I go to first year at high school, I see one of these guys. I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. And he greets me like I'm an old-time friend, and there was never any issues after that. So I was thrilled that, I didn't get beat up. I hadn't been through karate by then, so I wasn't ready to defend myself. But in any event, so what do you do if you're growing up and you're in that situation? You don't have a dad that you can ask, or you don't feel like you can talk to mom. It might be questions about adolescence. It might be questions about the birds and the bees. Who do you go talk to? I would point you to that same group of people that I mentioned for the practical challenges. If you have a close friend and his or her parents like you, then don't be afraid to talk to them. Ask your friend's dad, hey, this might be a little strange, but can I ask you this question? I don't really have anyone else I can talk to about it. If you got uncles, if you got grandparents, go talk to them. Look for ways that you can get help from them. And you're also always welcome to email or message me. If there's something I can help you with, I'd love to do that. That's why I started this whole YouTube channel in the first place. So those are some of the practical challenges, and maybe some of the emotional ones. That's a surface level emotional challenge. The real challenges that you have, well, that I think anybody has when you're growing up and your dad's not in your daily life, is feeling your own value and worth. When I was writing the book, The Map to Manhood, I called and interviewed a number of dads that have grown up without dads. I made a post, had people respond, hey, if you grew up without your dad, and you're a dad now, I don't even know if I qualified him to be a dad, but if you grew up without your dad, I'd like to ask you some questions. And I talked to, a dozen different people, men now. Most of them were dads. They were raising kids of their own. And I asked them a series of questions. Again, this was research as I put together the stuff that I've got in the book, The Map to Manhood. One of the questions I asked him was, what advice would you give a teenage boy that's growing up today that doesn't have his dad in his daily life? And almost invariably, they would think about it, they would get a little bit emotional, and they would say, it's not your fault. And when you think about, well, as I thought about that, I thought, are they feeling the same thing I did? Is there something wrong with me because my dad doesn't love me? And that's the conclusion that I came to, because my dad wasn't in my daily life. Now, from his perspective, that's not what happened. He had marital problems. His wife didn't want him in the home anymore because of what he was doing, and he moved out. He didn't leave his kids from his perspective, but in practicality, from our perspective, at least from my perspective, that's what happened. And that's hard. So one of the biggest risks that you're going to face, if that's what you're growing up, if you've grown up in that type of a situation, is feeling like a part of it is your fault. Maybe there's something wrong with you. Maybe your dad left or he doesn't want to be with you because there's something defective with you. That's going to eat away at your self-confidence, at your feelings of self-worth. In my opinion, that's the biggest risk you've got if you're growing up without a dad. So what do you do about that? That's a tough one. That's not an easy fix, but you can fix it. There's a whole section of this in the book, The Map to Manhood. You can get it. There's a link in the description for this if you want to check that out. But let me give you some suggestions right now. First of all, realize that it's not your fault that your dad's not there. You might feel that way, but it's not. Okay? So start telling yourself that that's not the reason, that there's not something wrong with you because he's not there. Now, that will help, but it's a lot of work to go forward with that. The next thing you got to do is start looking at ways that you can like yourself better. What things are you good at? What things do your friends tell you you're good at? Are you good at particular topics in school, or subjects in school, or sports, or athletics, or video games? Whatever your talents are, be glad that you've got those talents and try to develop some other ones. The better you feel about yourself, the better life's going to be for you, and the easier and the faster it's going to be for you to overcome the challenges of growing up without a dad. Now, I see some of you in here. If you don't mind, if you would put in the chat, it's kind of late to ask this now, but hopefully the audio is working. Sorry, it sounds like a helicopter's flying over, but hopefully the audio is working. If you can put in the chat and let me know you're hearing this, I would appreciate that. So, what can you do if you're struggling with your self-worth because, well, for whatever reasons, it's because your dad isn't there in your daily life or not? There's a couple of suggestions besides what I said that I give you too. Prove to yourself that you're a good person. That's really what you want to feel, is you want to know that you're a good person. Well, how can you prove to yourself you're a good person? You can start by doing good things. If you got a good relationship with your mom, even if you don't, you can shock the heck out of her. Go give her a hug and tell her thank you for all the stuff she's done for you and that she continues to do for you. That will make you, it's going to make her feel tremendous, but it's going to make you feel a lot better too. And when you do that, you're going to start to get the idea that, hey, you know, you really are a good person. And at the heart of it, that's what you've got to realize to get over that problem, that emotional pain of not having your dad in your life. You've got to realize that it's not your fault, that you're a good person anyway. So do something good for your mom, all right? You can do another thing. Do something good for a friend. It might even be just send a text message. Send a compliment to someone you know out of the blue about something they did that you appreciated, or something about them that you like or admire, and just do something that will make them feel good. Because you're going to feel good when you do that. Make sure it's genuine. It's not fake. Can't be fake. You got to do it for real. But as you do those things, you're starting to build the path to self-confidence and self-love. And that's really the biggest challenge, I think, that you and anyone faces that has grown up without their dad in their daily life. So, oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. It's nice to know the audio is working. That's good. Otherwise, I'd have a 15-minute live stream that's that I just have to delete and redo again. So, all right. Well, those were a few of the things I thought I'd just share, jump on and share. I'm hoping to do a Q&A every second Wednesday of every month. Today is the second Wednesday of the month. And so I wanted to jump on and do one. If any of you, and I know this is a small audience right now watching it live, if any of you have any questions, you want to type those in, or for the next one, send me an email at info@mystepdad.org or dad@mystepdad.org, and I'll get those in the queue for the next one. So until then, I hope this has been helpful. I want you to know you can really succeed in life, even though your dad may not have been there to help you figure it out. And you do have a dad that loves you. And I'll see you on the next live stream.